In this video, you'll find raid guides for all of the Ultra Beast raids that will get up until and at GoFest Global event. Raid hours for each of these Pokemon will take place on the same day that their raids will be available, and all with the exception of Stakataka and Blacephalon will have their shiny version available. It's also worth mentioning that in between July 8 and July 15, we'll have a chance to obtain both Ultra Beasts or a Necrozma with an Ultra Wormhole inspired background, much like the ones obtained at the in-person GoFest events. Also, don't forget to join a party or use party power to make those raids a little bit easier, and without any further ado, let's get into it! And we'll kick things off with Guzzlord. So, even though it isn't all that great for PvE, it's actually a really good PvP pick for both the Grade and Ultra Leagues alike. Being a Dark and Dragon type makes it weak to Fighting, Bug, Ice and Dragon type attacks, and as for its Hundo IVs, 1650 or 2062 if boosted by windy or foggy weather conditions. The best mega counters for Guzzlord are Gardevoir, Rayquaza and Alakazam. As for the best shadow counters, Gardevoir, Grand Bull and Donphan, and the best regular counters in Enamorus, Xerneas, Gardevoir, Tapu Koko, Togekiss, and Tapu Lele. Even though it is possible to solo Guzzlord, I'd recommend 3 or more trainers to beat it comfortably. Next up, we have Nihilego. Opposite to Guzzlord, Nihilego ranks poorly in PvP, but I'd say we can consider it to be an average PvE attacker, since it has better options above it. Being a Rock and Poison type makes it twice as weak to ground and also weak to Steel, Water and Psychic type attacks. And as for Hundo IVs, 2256 or 2821 if boosted by partially cloudy or cloudy weather conditions. Best Primal Eye mega counters are Groudon, Garchomp and Swampert. Best Shadow counters are Groudon, Excadrill and Garchomp. And the best regular counters are Therian Landorus, Excadrill, Groudon, Mamoswine, Duskmane Necrozma and Garchomp. Nihilego can be duoed, but I'd recommend 4 or more trainers just to be safe. And next on the list is Celesteela. It will only be available in the Southern Hemisphere at first and then globally during GoFest, and it has a really pretty shiny version, and that's basically it. Being a Steel and Flying type makes it only weak to Fire and Electric type attacks, and its Hundo IVs will be 7072 or 2216 if boosted by snowy or windy weather conditions. The best mega counters are Blaziken, Charizard Y and Manectric. As for the best shadow counters, Electivire, Apex Ho-Oh and Entei, and the best regular counters, Reshiram, Therian Thundurus, Xurkitree, Zekrom, Blacephalon and Heatran. Due to how bulky it is, I'd recommend a group of 5 or more people to defeat it comfortably. Moving on to Kartana, it will only be available on the Northern Hemisphere at first and then globally during GoFest Global event. Has little to no use in PvP, but it is an amazing grass type attacker ranking 2nd for such a type. Being a grass and steel type makes it twice as weak to fire and also weak to fighting type attacks, and its Hundo IVs will be 2101 or 2626 if boosted by sunny or snowy weather conditions. For the best mega counters, we have both forms of Charizard, Blaziken and Houndoom. For the best shadow counters, we have Darmanitan, Apex Ho-Oh and Entei. And the best regular counters, Reshiram, Heatran, Blacephalon, Purified Apex Ho-Oh, Volcarona and Darmanitan. We're able to duo Kartana with the right counters, but 3 or more trainers are recommended to make it just a little bit easier. Then we have Stakataka. It will only be available on the Eastern Hemisphere at first and then globally during GoFest. Ranks poorly in PvP, way below your average attackers for PvE, and no shiny available, so I'd recommend only going for it if you needed X entry. Being a Rock and Steel type makes it twice as weak to both fighting and ground and also weak to water type attacks. And as for its Hundo IVs, 1882 or 2353 if boosted by partially cloudy or snowy weather conditions. For the best Primal Eye mega counters, we'll have Groudon, Heracross and Garchomp. For the best shadow counters, Groudon, Excadrill and Machamp. And for the best regular counters, Terrakion, Keldeo, Therian Landorus, Lucario, Conkeldurr and Groudon. Being somewhat bulky, even with the right counters, I'd recommend 4 or more trainers just to be safe. And next Next on the list we have Blacephalon, and you're going to be able to tell by my excitement that this one is quite a bit better. It will only be available in the Western Hemisphere at first and then globally during GoFest. Better by miles as a PvEer, despite being quite a glass cannon, it ranks really well as both a fire and ghost type attacker, which, well, are both of its types, making it weak to ground, rock, ghost, water and dark type attacks, and its Hundo IVs will be 1884 or 2355 if boosted by sunny or foggy weather conditions. As for the best Primal Eye Mega counters, we'll have Kyogre, Groudon and Tyranitar. For the best shadows, we'll have Tyranitar, Kyogre and Groudon. And lastly, for the best regulars, Tyranitar, Hydreigon, Kyogre, Greninja, Dawnwing's Necrozma and Rhyperior. As for trainers to defeat, 2 are enough, but 4 or more are recommended just to be safe. Next up, we have Buzzwole, which is going to be the first shiny debut on this list. It will only be available in the Americas and Greenlands at first and then globally during GoFest. Ranks somewhat well for both the Ultra and Master Leagues, but quite below average in what it takes to PvE. Being a bug and fighting type makes it twice as weak to flying and also weak to fire, psychic and fairy type attacks, and its Hundo IVs will be 1977 or 2472 if boosted by rainy or cloudy weather conditions. For the best mega counters we'll have Rayquaza, Pidgeot and Salamence. For the best shadow counters, Rayquaza, Moltres and Staraptor, and for the best regular counters, Rayquaza, Yveltal and Namorous, Moltres, Therian Tornadoes and Staraptor. We should be able to duo Buzzwole, but group up with 4 or more people just to be safe. Pheromosa is up next. It will also be a global shiny debut, only available in Europe, Middle East, Africa and India at first, and then globally during GoFest. Opposite to Buzzwole, it sees no play in PvP, but in PvE, despite being quite a glass cannon, it ranks amazing as a bug type attacker. And that, paired up with its fighting type, also make it twice as weak to flying and also weak to fire, psychic and fairy type attacks, and its Hundo IVs will be 1624 or 2030 if boosted by rainy or cloudy weather conditions. For the best mega counters, we have Rayquaza, Pidgeot and Salamence. For the best shadow counters, Rayquaza, Moltres and Salamence. And for the best regular counters, Rayquaza, Yveltal, Enamorous, Moltres, Salamence and Therian Tornadoes. You should be able to solo this one with the right counters, but group up with other trainers just to be safe. And one of the best out of the batch, Xurkitree. It will also be a shiny debut, only available in Asia Pacific regions at first and then globally during GoFest. Being quite shy as a PvPer, the same doesn't happen in PvP as it dominates the scene as the best non-shadow and non-mega electric type attackers. Such type makes it only weak to ground type attacks, and as for its Hundo IVs, 2249 or 2812 if boosted by rainy weather conditions. As for Primal Eye Mega counters, Groudon, Garchomp and Swampert. As for the best shadow counters, Groudon, Excadrill and Garchomp. And the best regular counters will be Therian Landorus, Groudon, Excadrill, Mamoswine, Garchomp and Rhyperior. With the right counters it can be duoed, but you get it by now. A few more trainers are recommended just to be safe. Then we have Necrozma. The star of the in-person event so far will make its global debut. PvP-wise, seems like it sees little to no play at all, and as for PvE, falls short compared to some other Pokemon ranking quite below the best for its type. Which, since we're at it, is Psychic, making it weak to Bug, Ghost and Dark type attacks, and its Hundo IVs will be 2104 or 2630 if boosted by windy weather conditions. For the best mega counters, we have Tyranitar, Banette and Gengar. For the best shadows, Tyranitar, Chandelure and Weavile. And for the best regulars, Dawnwing's Necrozma, Tyranitar, Hydreigon, Dusk main Necrozma, Darkrai and Goldengo. With some top counters, we should be able to duo Necrozma, but 4 or more trainers should make it quite a bit easier, especially on the potions and revives. And we're getting closer and closer to the end. Next up we have both Dawnwings and Dusk main Necrozma, which will only be available on July 14th by the looks of it. We won't be able to catch them. Instead, Necrozma will appear, but we'll be able to farm some energy for the fusion, so not all is bad. Each fusion requires requires 1000 lunar or solar energy, and we're still unaware how much we'll get per battle, but at least fusions will be permanent unless we decide to revert it, so there's that. And with all that said and done, let's start with Dawnwing's Necrozma, which is the fusion that includes both Necrozma and Lunala. Defeating it will award us with some lunar energy and an encounter with Necrozma. PvP-wise, it does seem to rank pretty amazing in the Master League, guaranteeing that rank 7, but as for PvE, it falls short on the Psychic side, probably due to not having better charge attacks, but since it gets a new Ghost move, after Fusion, Moongeist Beam, it gets thrown onto the top of the Ghost-type rank right next to Mega Gengar, so definitely a great addition to our roster. As for being a Psychic and Ghost-type, it ends up being twice as weak to Ghost and Dark-type attacks, and as for the Hundo IVs, as we're getting Necrozma after defeating Dawnwings, those will be the same as the ones previously mentioned on that Necrozma section. As for the best Mega counters, Tyranitar, Houndoom, and Gengar. For the best Shadows, Tyranitar, Weavile, and Chandelure. And for the best regulars, Dawnwings Necrozma, Hydreigon, Tyranitar, Darkrai, Yveltal, and Incineroar. Due to its weaknesses and how amazing Dark-type attackers are, 2 trainers should be enough to defeat it, but resort to a larger group if you're unsure 2 will be enough. And with that, let there be sun! On to the last Pokemon raid boss of the video, Dusk main Necrozma. Ranks a bit worse at PvP when compared to Dawnwings, still average as a Psychic type attacker in PvE, and as a Steel type, let's just say that its new move, Sunsteel Strike, catapults it to the top of the charts, even outclassing Shadow Metagross, the king of Steel types. As for being a Psychic and Steel type, it ends up being weak to Ground, Ghost, Fire, and Dark type attacks, and just like Dawnwings Necrozma, as we'll get Necrozma after defeating it, well, you guessed it, now there's no excuse for us to not memorize Necrozma Hundo IVs. As for Primal Eye Mega counters, we'll get Groudon, Charizard Y, and Tyranitar. For the best Shadows, Tyranitar, Apex Ho-Oh, and Excadrill. And for the best regulars, Dawnwings Necrozma, Reshiram, Heatran, Purified Apex Ho-Oh, Tyranitar, and Hydreigon. This one will require a bit more trainers, 3 bare minimum, or 5 or more, just to be safe. And with that last one out of the way, that's basically it for the video. Strong reminder once again to be sure to party up with other trainers, as using party power will definitely make these raids quite a bit easier, and well, above all else, just try to have fun. And best of luck with your hunts, fellow trainers. I'll see you guys on the next video, and up until then, stay awesome, stay safe, stay scrubbity. I'll see you guys by then. Peace!